Hi everyone, it's me the Jonin Monkey again, and welcome to Video Game Troubadour, where we look at the best and the worst of video game storytelling. So, here we are. Another year has gone by, and there are plenty of games to play through this year. So much so, I barely had the time to finish half of them. But since I don't get the time to review all of them, especially this year, I now present the top 10 gaming narratives I've played in 2017! Okay, there are only two rules for this list. 1, it's about narrative, not gameplay. 2, I can include old games for this list, I just have to play them for the first time this year. And before we get started, I would like to throw out some honorary awards for the games that couldn't make the list for various reasons. The most intriguing demo award goes to Octopath Traveler. This is Square's new project for the Nintendo Switch, and from what I played in the demo, I really like it so far. The idea of playing the story from the viewpoint of 8 different characters is kinda cool, especially when their class actually alters how they view and interact with the world. Plus, the dialogue and voice acting have been top-notch so far, so I'm looking forward to seeing the full version. And the Beige Vacuum Award, given to games that left no impression on me whatsoever, goes to Sonic Forces. Some people may call me a hater for this, but hating implies I had any form of emotion towards it. I played the entire game on autopilot because the pacing was so fast and the tone was so dull that nothing got a reaction out of me. It felt less like the game was telling me a story and more like someone was reading me the Cliff Notes version. So yeah, there's no nerd rage or guilty pleasure for this one. It's just there. And finally, the special Jonin seriously should have played this game in 2017 but never found the time, oh god please don't kill him award goes to Mario Odyssey. Yeah. I'll get round to it next year, I promise. Anyway, enough preamble, it's time to get on to the list proper. Number 10! Fire Emblem Warriors. It was a close battle between this and Pokemon Ultra Sun, but the positive energy of Fire Emblem Warriors was what gave it the edge. The actual story mode is pretty basic and can be described as Sacred Stones Abridged, but let's be honest, this game is an excuse to invite several Fire Emblem characters to a big party where they get to hang out and look cool. The game knows what it wants to be, and I can respect it for that. Heck, this game even reminded me what I used to like about characters I had grown sour towards due to overexposure. Add some well-written support conversations that explore these characters further, and you have an experience I really enjoyed, and will continue to enjoy as the new DLC comes out. Number 9! Devil Survivor 2, Recordbreaker. This game probably could have ranked higher on this list, but unfortunately I haven't had the time to play beyond the first 3 days or chapters of the game, so I don't really know where the story is going or what my final thoughts will be. The fact that it's at number 9 despite that speaks to how promising the opening chapters were. Just like the original Devil Survivor, Recordbreaker does a great job of setting up the situation and establishing the stakes of the premise. In this case, a world overrun by demons and natural disasters. So, for that alone, I want to keep playing just to see how it all plays out. Whether it will be a good game or a great game will depend on A, how the plot points pan out, and B, how the characters develop. Daichi has a pretty rocky start with me so far, but as it is now, I feel like it's earned this spot. Number 8! Subsurface Circular. I've always believed that a good writer can make any premise, no matter how insane or mundane, engaging. And Mike Biffel proves me right with this amazing gem. You're playing as an android detective, or techs as they are known, trying to solve a mystery whilst being confined to a subway train. In other words, the entire game is based around asking fellow passengers questions about the outside world which you never get to see. And yet somehow it manages to include world building, sci-fi concepts, humour, puzzles, plot twists, light role-playing, and even some character development depending on how you play it. Yes, this game is text heavy, but if you're a fan of mystery stories, I cannot recommend this game enough. Number 7! Golf Story. This is another indie gem I found in 2017, this time on the Nintendo eShop for the Switch. Normally I have no interest in golf, but the instant I saw the trailer for this game, I knew I had to at least give it a try. The plot is basic, yes, but it never takes itself too seriously and is packed with quirky situations and jokes that have me chuckling throughout. Rap battles, zombies, car chases, this game has it all. And no, I'm not kidding. But beyond that, it's a charming underdog story about a young man who wants to be the best at golf, despite having no official training at a swing that offends any other golf player who sees it. And sometimes that's all you need. I do wish the protagonist had an actual name, and the game was prone to crashing during cutscenes, which got irritating after a while, but otherwise, I have no complaints. If you have a Switch and some free cash, this is a great budget title. And if this is their first game, I can't wait to see what Sidebar Games make next. Number 6. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I'm willing to bet that no one is surprised that Breath of the Wild is on this list, but are surprised that it just missed the top 5. I've gone over most of my reasons on Monkey Broadcast, but the short version is as follows. I love the world, I love the champions and what they did with Zelda, and I love the open-ended nature of it all. I just wish the narrative had a bit more focus and there was more content in the side quests, as opposed to arbitrary shopping lists. That aside, it was a bold step that breathed new life into the franchise, and I look forward to seeing where it goes from here. Speaking of things I've reviewed on MB, Number 5! Mass Effect 3. Me and Sven went into great depths on all 3 of these games, especially Mass Effect 3 as it serves as the climax of the Commander Shepard trilogy. As a final chapter, it delivers in spades, giving us one last epic battle against the foe that's been foreshadowed for so long in the series, and the character writing and set pieces were spot on, showing us how far the series had come. If it wasn't for the literal last 5 minutes, this game would have been a lot higher. But as it stands now, it still deserves the number 5 spot on my list. Number 4! Metal Gear Solid 3. Yep, it took me this long to play this classic, and oh boy am I glad to have played this. It strikes the perfect balance between Kojima's tendencies to include complex themes, and his tendencies to create cheesy action-based camp. In other words, it's an enjoyable experience that is deep without being too self-indulgent. If I ever get the time, I would like to examine this narrative in a bit more depth, but the best way I could describe it for now is that it tries to replicate the feeling of a classic James Bond movie, before suddenly giving you a bitter taste of what that era was actually like. If you're still curious about this game, I definitely recommend it. It's a game that has definitely stood the test of time. Number 3! Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadows of Valentia. One could go on about how great this game is as a remake, or how nice it is to return to the tone of previous Fire Emblem titles, but whilst those things might be true, it's best not to forget that Echoes stands on its own as a great story. Arm and Celica are great protagonists, and they have to make their way through a land that's stuck in its past traditions, be it cults clinging to dying gods, or nobles stubbornly trying to maintain their superiority. Add some nice support conversations, great voice acting throughout, and a fantastic antagonist in the form of Bakut, and you have a Fire Emblem title that is sure to go down as a classic. Well, even more so than the original anyway. Number 2! Mass Effect 2. Again, me and Sven have covered this in great detail for Monkey Broadcast, but having it appear in the number 2 slot just shows how much I enjoyed this game. Mass Effect 2 is a great step up from its predecessor, focusing on its dialogue and character development and creating a likeable badass cast that you want to go on space adventures with. And oh boy, the adventures you can go on are freaking awesome. From heists to car chases, Mass Effect 2 has variety in spades. It took a franchise that started off good and turned it into something great. And I had to repeat myself from the podcast. I am so glad I finally got to play through this narrative. It's a space opera that has many great concepts and kicks several kinds of ass as well. And now we've reached the big moment. Number 1! Tales of Berseria. Tales of Berseria is one of the best Tales games in years, to the point where it may knock Symphonia from my personal top spot. Like all of the Tales games, it creates a lovable cast of characters that all get well written arcs and side interactions that show them at their best, their funniest, and their lowest. Normally I'd have to add an asterisk that says the characters are great despite a weak plot, but that's not the case this time, as the plot, whilst containing some magibabble, focuses on a simple conflict that has multiple shades of grey. A chaotic neutral party versus a lawful neutral antagonist, if you will. Plus it takes the time to actually explore the whole my dead family revenge trope, but I'll have to get into that another time. That's not the only reason why this game is number 1. It's a little more personal than that. Just as Tales of Symphonia came at the right point in my life to change my outlook for the better, Tales of Berseria came along when I needed it most. It was a rough year for me. The state of the political climate and the online climate got really depressing at times, and my busyness reached a point where I was burnt out physically and emotionally. It was at my lowest moment when I decided to play through the game and reach the scene where Velvet's character arc reaches its peak, inside the Earth Pulse. People who have played the game know exactly what I'm talking about. Seeing Velvet and the others accept their flaws and grow as a family, to see them fight for what they believed in, no matter how difficult it was, and to see them overcome impossible odds at the end, that was what raised my spirits. That's the power of stories, even the simplest, cheesiest ones. They make us think, they make us grow, they make us laugh, cry, and punch the air in triumph. All of these games did this for me in some way, but Berseria hit me right in the feels and still made me smile. That's why it's my favourite gaming narrative of 2017. And that's all for now, my friends. Here's the 2018 and the many great games to follow. And hopefully some videos as well, but we'll just have to see how that goes. I've been the Jonin Monkey, and until next time, cheerio.